Karen, it's an absolute incredible privilege to meet you today, having learned about the heroic and miraculous attempt to save one dog's life in a world of chaos. This is incredible because I learned from the Inquirer, the Philippine Inquirer, that this dog was a swamp dog, that this dog had literally been rescued by this family, and knowing the economic disparities of a country like the Philippines, this dog was not necessarily meant to be a treasured pet.
I understand that it's a different country, different culture, and the more that I read about the dog, I came across an article with some information that was rather disturbing to me, that this particular gentleman had previously eaten a dog, and it bothered me instantly at a visceral level.
Let's go back a moment. I have heard of this in other cultures. It's rampant in countries like China and Mexico, as far as I understand, where dogs, even horses, are considered edible protein. So this is almost illogical that here's this dog that comes out of a swamp, Journey careful, that comes out of a swamp, and all of a sudden, you know, this dog becomes a hero. What changed?
I think, again, from the different articles that I was able to find from the Philippine newspapers and the reporters, that because the little girls played with the dog, even the wife had wondered why the dog hadn't been sacrificed as others had been. Not that it was a regular activity. I think the man is so poor that in order to put food on the table for your family, you're looking for a source of protein. Again, you learn, you live. He's worked since the age of 9. He's not been educated, so I think he just does the best he can. So I can't fault that, but it bothered me.
Well, it's so disparate to you and fans who care so much about this dog, raised $20,000 and this miraculous surgery. Karen, how was it done? How was that surgery taking place?
Well, getting her here once we were able to find out that help was available. Again, after reading all that I could, I think what struck me was, although this gentleman might have eaten dog before, something definitely changed. And I think the fact that the little girl, his daughter, played with this dog, and that they had fed the dog, she was maybe just a few weeks old. It was like raising your own child, and they did think of her as another daughter. Somewhere, I think, in his mind, there was
something changed.
This dog was different, right? And at that moment, then, definitely, it was cemented that this is like another child. Right. And when the dog took off, but showed up at home 2 weeks later, animal control wanted to put her down. He said, "No, I want you to help her. She saved my daughter's life."
Wow.
So that's where it begins. And he stood up for her. That's number one. He took her to a vet who has a holistic approach to animal welfare. I think that's number two. And then I just happened down the story. My background kicked in, the clinical side, and this is, to me, seemed like a pediatric trauma case. So I just...
And how odd is this? We're talking about a dog who had major facial deformity, and almost as an anomaly. I mean, when I saw the video and I saw the photographs, I was aghast. I mean, how can an animal even exist without airways and filtration? Because filtration is key to keeping the dog healthy, for sure. And you think about germs and particulates in the air and all the things that, you know, could become problematic. And then the surgery, and the fact that they actually put nostrils into the dog. They actually created a nose for the dog.
They were amazed when they saw her that she survived this, number one. They wanted to know how she ate, so they could get an idea of how she had adjusted. Mostly she was using her tongue. And the nostrils, actually the openings for her sinuses were there, but she's minus the nose and pathway. So infection was the major concern. But they ended up doing a 3D model, 3D printing, they made an actual skull. It was a replica of Kabang's skull, based off the readings and the measurements from her CAT scan. they staged the procedure. They did 2 procedures. The first one was to remove some bad molars that were exposed because of the accident, and get a really good idea as to where the nasal turbinates were. Did they have to do any soft tissue repair? They did, and get those measurements. So they spent a good deal of time actually in the lab before they ever got into surgery to minimize the timings that clock.
What do you think is embodied in this dog that gave her this opportunity? And beyond that, what's the message here? What are we taking home from this? It's not just an Inquirer story.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. No contest. I think that there's a certain amount of, perhaps, if you want to call it divine intervention, for the sake of argument, it's a term I think that applies. That she survived, number one. That she was able to be taken to someone who was willing to try rather than put her down, because she was otherwise a seemingly happy, healthy dog, able to eat. The finding that kind of help to close her wound was an absolute necessity. But somebody in Buffalo, New York, helping a dog in the Philippines make it to California just doesn't compute. So yeah, you have to wonder, how it all came together. All of us rather feel that we didn't volunteer as much as we were chosen.
Yes.
And that she's also had to deal with some hiccups here that we didn't expect once she got here. And so a lot of this was unpredictable.
Right. So how has Kabang changed Karen's life?
Well, I think she's changed everyone's life. Everyone that's worked with her at UC Davis, I think, recognizes there's a very unique personality, if I can use that word, for a dog. Once you meet her, you can understand why people want to help. She seems very special. She's very intelligent.
Or shepherd?
She's
some shepherd?
Some shepherd mix. And that people it was over 45 countries at last count and territories.
My goodness,
where the donations came from.
That's wonderful.
And it's very validating to me to feel that I'm not alone in the effort. And it could not have possibly happened had these people not decided that they wanted to contribute and make a difference in this dog's life.
Do you see Kabang in the twilight years of her life? I know she's a relatively young dog, as sort of the poster dog for an international advocacy effort to stop the inhumane cultural habitat of or cultural need of people in some countries wanting to eat dogs. I mean, it seems to me that she has another mission.
Interesting you should make that comment, because when her story crossed my lap, I was aware of the fact that she's in the Pacific Rim where these things are most prevalent. And I thought, if she ever survives this, if we are lucky enough to get her the help, and she's able to go back home, wouldn't that be wonderful? Because in essence, that was my gut feeling. Here is the poster child for perhaps the anti-dog meat trade and responsible pet ownership, where it's been sorely lacking.
Karen, how will celebrity, or being a celebrity, change her life and the people around her who support her?
It's a really good question, and I don't know if anybody's got a complete answer. It has been a topic of discussion with the veterinarians from the Philippines and myself, and that we try our best to facilitate what's going to be best for Kabang. I don't know that you can go back to a normal life quite the way she had a normal life. Her owner, I think, is feeling some pressure, so we have concerns that we try to accommodate their needs, maybe by virtue of trying to help him earn a better living, he'll be better able to take care of her.
And I understand, Journey, you've heard so much about Kabang and you brought a gift. Do you want to give that to Karen, to give to Kabang?
Oh. Thank you, Journey. That's very generous. Make sure Kabang gets this.